So I'd like to make a disclaimer before the video starts, before I get to the guide, and say that I apologize if I say anything that's Warhammer related and I said it inaccurately or I didn't understand the background of it. I've always been interested in Warhammer stuff, but I feel like there's just so much of it I feel overwhelmed. I just don't know where to start, so I just haven't. But if you want to correct me, by all means, I'll be happy to take any and all information you have to give. I'd also like to state that this is a personal recommendation. This isn't the end-all be-all. It's not going to make the game trivialized under all difficulty levels. It's just something that's been working very, very well for me with little effort, really. So the gameplay here, what you're seeing is in Chapter 6, there comes a part where Brother Barrakill will have to access a terminal and he'll have to run a calculation, as you see the bar on the top. This is considered to be a difficult part by many, as I've seen people said that they've been stuck for hours or days even on this part because it's posing them so much issue. It's a tough part because you're stuck with a guy who's not exactly functional outside of his medical capacities. He's good as support, but not when it comes to primary killing, which leaves a lot of this work onto you, which is why I think my build shows that when shit gets bad, you can still be there, and you can stay in that fight. But I would also like to say that this is on medium difficulty, and now there's people who are going to be giving me some sort of flack over that and say that there's two higher difficulties and this and that. The higher difficulties, I've tried them. They create bullet sponge enemies, which is not fun, and it just increases their damage values to a level that I think is a little bit annoying. It's not unfair, it's just frustrating to deal with. And even worse yet, like, dumb companion AI can pose such a bigger problem. As you can see, he keeps walking in front of me. He will catch bullets. This happens regularly. Both of them will walk in front of me when I'm shooting and protect enemies by just catching all the bullets into the back of their head. I don't know why they do this. They do it regularly, and this area is absolutely no exception. They will repeatedly do it even until the end of the game, I know it. So you have to be able to work around that, and this is where psychic abilities can really help. So I think for anyone who's going to try and say anything about not playing on higher difficulty and trying to say that they're not bullet spongy, yada yada, I'd just like to say that we're not going to agree, I'm sure, and we could probably just settle this here by saying my personal stance is that instead of altering values, they should alter behavior or other numbers, like more enemies spawning, or they come from random spawn areas, they run faster, just something like that, just make it actually more difficult without making it unfair. And another thing I'd like to say is there is a certain level of stupidity that comes into your companion AI, and it causes more issues than you would like, but you can still be successful. You just have to understand how to work around them. So I'm hopefully going to detail how you should work around them. There's just small steps, but there's some things don't change, like them standing in front of you, them doing dumb shit, like he's just standing there while they're coming right at him, he's not doing anything. I have to back up to make him back up. It's very frustrating because now you're just trying not to get him to fall off the bridge and come down there, which it's almost like playing a rescue mission at times. But if you work with them, overall, most of your experience with your companions will be that they are very good at what they do, and that will be to fix a heavy unit so that he's very strong and good at killing and good at protecting himself, and that the medic is there to heal and he's good at assisting. And personally, I use him a lot like a radar, where sometimes you'll hear your companions say that there's someone with a rocket launcher and you don't know where, but they'll just fire at that person with the rocket launcher and now you know exactly where to shoot. So that's what I'm hopefully going to try and help you figure out how to play as. Just be slow, careful, work with your teammates and their flaws, and understand that you can get around these issues that may not be present for you, but if they are very frustrating to deal with, because the AI is so good at not getting stuck to things. It's like if you play Dead Rising, they're the polar opposite. They're great at moving, they don't get stuck to anything, but man, they're dumb as shit when it comes to a lot of other things, especially combat, which is kind of bad. But hopefully this guide will be of some use to some of you. If not, if you have any other suggestions or build ideas, then let me know, I'd be interested. Again, any corrections that have to be made regarding anything Warhammer related that I say, I'm sorry, I don't know any better. So hopefully this is helpful. We'll get into the guide now. So moving into the actual guide now, I wanted to start with two versions of it. One is a quick version, one is a more detailed one. Starting with the quick one, just for anybody who doesn't really care for anything else and just wants to see it. This is my screen at the end of Chapter 6. So I have the 4 points here you can see, and what I would recommend is start with a command tree and either get the first 3 or 4 skills. The fourth one here is additional 10 armor above what you'd already get in this one here. And then you'd want to get the 1 skill here in Devotion and then in Psychic. Now in Psychic, what I personally recommend is whether or not you're going to use Psychic powers, I don't think it matters. Just get Inferno. It does a high amount of damage. It'll kill all standard enemies in one usage. And it goes in, it functions like a lane clear. Because it moves forward and you can turn it left and right. So it's very useful. But I'd recommend what you primarily want out of the command tree is to get this, the Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and apply it to Brother Barrakill. Get that gun away from him, and he'll be good with this, and his survivability will skyrocket. Moving to the more detailed version, I'd like to say that out of the 2 companions that you have, which is Nahum, I think, and Brother Barrakill there, only one of them needs any sort of changing. The AI is fine as is for when it comes to moving, but they can do some dumb things when it comes to like walking around or just combat situations. And the worst is Barrakill, because it is highly accentuated by the type of weapons that he has, because he's a heavy unit. In the first level, you hear his autocannon spinning. If you don't hear him shooting, it's either because you walked 2 steps away from him, therefore he walked 2 steps closer to you and just stopped trying to shoot anything that's killing him currently, or you'll hear it spin up, and then somebody walks in front of him, like some gene stealer, and then he starts hitting him with the gun instead of shooting him and protecting himself. You want to get the gun away from him. He's not going to function right with it. It's kind of a waste of time, and he starts killing himself because of it. I don't know why he is that way, but he is. So the first necessary evil of this is to get the plasma cannon. It's not great for him. It's a giant grenade, it explodes, what can you expect? I mean, it's good for that, but otherwise, you'd really want to try and get this right here. This is good. It says 10% armor for your allies. Now, to me, 10%, I don't know how to calculate that 10%, but it doesn't feel like 10%. It feels like more. So, I don't know if this text is inaccurate, which a number of the texts in this are inaccurate and then not very descriptive, but it seems better than it is and definitely worth the investment. But what you primarily want is this Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. Only give it to Barrakill. Leave Nahum alone. He has a very strict loadout if you want him to heal. And if you do, he has to stay with exactly what he starts with whenever you're in the side gate. Don't change that. He needs that standard bolter and the Narthecium, I think it's called. That's the only way he's going to be administering any sort of healing at all. So leave him alone. He's good as is. With the Thunderhammer Storm Shield, Barrakill will get the ability to block and parry enemies, which he's supreme at, is unbelievable, and he'll just lay into crowds over and over. So you can face one way while he looks the other, and you'll be safe. Because you'll kill everything coming in front of you, he'll kill everything coming in front of him, and your medic will just shoot through both of you and kill whoever he can. It's a very good system for that. This will actually make, I'm willing to say it, that his survivability will be on par, if not better than yours, because his capacity to block and parry, he's an AI. He can just do it perfectly whenever he wants to, and he does it a lot. He just kind of abuses it. So it works out well. What I'd also recommend here is this skill, because if they're going to get 10% armor, 10% in quotes there, you're also going to get the 10% in quotes there armor yourself. I don't see why you wouldn't take it. Also, just to come back to this, if you're interested, you can get an additional 10% armor. It does require 4 skill points to get to it, which is a lot, but this is how it is. Inferno, highly recommend it. Whether or not you're using psychic abilities, it doesn't matter. You always have 3 slots anyway, and you only start with 2 skills. Might as well fill that 3rd slot. And it only takes 2 skill points to get. What I'd recommend in this skill tree is getting upwards to this. This is Void Tear, I believe it's called. What it does is it creates a black hole, and it sucks anything in that comes up to it for 10 seconds, and it will just shred anything that gets too close to it. It does a massive amount of damage. I think Super Brood Lords are the only ones that could survive this, whereas just about everything else is going to die. The damage it deals and the effective radius it has is just, if you place it right on something really big, they're not going to survive it. Worse yet is if you have the Force Axe and the Standard Bolter, you can get the cooldown reduction from the Force Axe. That's 66%. Chain Lightning comes back every 2 seconds, so you can lay into it with 60 rounds and blast them with lightning over and over while they're stuck. There's nothing they could do to get out. There's barely anything that will survive in the game. To my understanding, there's one thing, and that's it. There is this final skill here. A lot of people don't know what this is because its description is terrible. The Psyker uses their mighty powers to break his enemies. What does that even mean? If you look it up, I think this is called Lion's Nemesis. It's not a bad skill, but it's highly situational. Effectively, what it is it functions as a passive, and it makes it so that your melee attacks can actually kill things easier. But up to what amount of enemies you can kill, I don't know. Like what size? Like, can you kill a scythe strain in a single hit? I don't know. And does it make it so that it's just a one hit in general, or does it make it just that you do so much damage that you tend to just kill everything that you hit because you have so much damage? If it's that you're dealing more damage, this is good to have if you're willing to put on just 2 skills, and then you can have a Thunder Hammer or a Mace of Absolution yourself, or you can even just carry around the standard Force Axe and Bolter combo and kill everything that way. But if it functions in that it gives a standardized, this is the range of enemies that are in the game that you can kill in one hit, this thing is not worth it. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't think this skill's all that useful. I think you're better off with 3 psychic skills as is. For people who are interested in the devotion tree, I'm just going to highlight what I have an issue with. For me, hacking is not a problem. I don't have any sort of issue with it. If I see a blip on my radar in that cone and a little sound signature, I know that they're coming from which direction. You can just wait and kill them and then do whatever you want to do with that turret later. I just destroy them all. So having a skill dedicated to reducing his hacking time is fine, I guess, but I don't want to have a second one. This is a large expenditure of skill points. I don't want it. I don't care. I don't think it's useful. This, for me personally, because I'm playing a psychic build, I have to use a Storm Bolter, which has 100% reliability. There is no weapon jamming for me. So this is, to me, is not so great. If you're not using psychic powers, that's fine. Maybe this will be more useful because there are a ton of weapons there, but regardless, this I think is a worthwhile skill, because if you use the Mace of Absolution or the Thunder Hammer yourself, why let them protect themselves when you're already committed to a swing? I mean, you're open to damage, so it sucks when they block it. Might as well make sure that that attack goes through. But it takes a long time to get there and a lot of points to add in. I don't know if it's worth it. This is useful here. Suffering critical hits is bad, as you would obviously assume, but it's very bad once something like a Scythe Strain walks up and hits you. They already do enough damage as is. When they hit you with a critical attack, it's going to be really, really bad. You'll see in your Terminator armor display there for your status, it'll change to a color you don't want to see. This I don't even think is all that useful, because realistically, as far as psi damage goes, there's not many enemies that deal psychic damage compared to physical damage, whereas the armor is more better served in those situations. So for me, those enemies have a range limit. They have to get within a range for their attacks to hit you. But you can see them clearly, so you can see them coming. Better yet, they have to run that entire distance from wherever they are to you to be able to hit you with psychic attacks. You can see them coming, so you can just lay into them with whatever gun you have, and it's fine. I don't know if this is really necessary. I wouldn't personally recommend it. It's just in general, I think the devotion tree is kind of broken up in things that are a little useless. Like the weapon jamming is good if you're using heavy weapons. This is great if you're using melee, but if you are committing to melee, that's a lot of commitment you're putting into this just for that one single skill. And this is useful, but again, it takes a long time to get to just that one if you don't care about this or this, like I don't. So for me, this is just all I want. Alternatively, in the command tree here, you have allies get 70% chance to resist a fatal hit. This is useful because 70% is a big number. Again, I don't know how the numbers are calculated in this game. With the armor, it says 10%. It feels more like 30 to 50. I don't know. So this 70% could actually be 10%, or it could actually be like 180%. I don't know. This game has a bad time with descriptions. But this is overall pretty useful just because having a teammate die, if you need them, like a big fight just occurred and then your apothecary died, but you need him to heal you, you're going to have to use a Psi Gate if you want to get him back, which can be it can diminish your score at the end, which sucks, but I think the mandatory amount you need to have is just 3 unused Psi Gates, which is a standard amount you have. So as long as you're picking up relics and you're killing everything, you'll get an extra one. And you should only ever really need 1 per level, I feel, unless you're playing on higher difficulties, then maybe, but that's dependent on all of that. Overall, this is what I think is a very good guide to follow for skill sets, and then you can just go wherever you want from here. I'd personally recommend starting with getting this plasma cannon first, and also getting this the psychic skill Inferno first before doing anything else. And then I put as many points as I could into command, and then once I unlocked this, I had 2 points left over to put into this. And ever since, I've just been dumping everything I had into Psychic. From here, I don't know where you'd want to go, but it's up to you. Again, I'd like to say that if you're not going into Psychic skills particularly, at least get Inferno. It's very useful. As you saw when I was doing that defense part with Barracuda and Terminal, I'd fire it down, and it covers the width of the walkway and burns everything there, and they just die. It's pretty useful. So I'd recommend it for that. So I hope this has been a useful guide. If it at all has guided in where you're going to be putting your skill points, then that's good. If not, then I hope that at least just the basic information that I've provided with some of these points is going to help steer you in a direction that will help you be the best version of you can be in this game. Moving on from this, I'd like to showcase, not in any specific detail with the video, that's just more there as a backdrop, but I'm going to explain some of the things you can do to help yourself when AI is, well, being themselves. So in terms of things that you can do to help yourself out by making sure that your AI companions actually are functioning like companions, one thing I'd recommend is when you get into a combat situation and there's hordes of enemies coming at you, try to find any sort of defensible location you possibly can. A place where you can stand and wait and just look around and just make sure that they are forced into a funnel or a choke point that you can kill them easily with. This will help very well where if you just have the Inferno skill, you can just throw it down there and kill a lot of weak enemies, even damaging the bigger enemies and then lay into them with whatever you've got. So this is a very useful skill in that, one, usually you're going to have these guys set to follow. I don't know why you wouldn't. They need to follow you around, set them to follow, right? The problem is that they take the follow command as priority number one, therefore if you walk a little bit away from them, they will walk closer to you, and sometimes they will drop all other actions, including fighting or defending themselves, and even going as far as to turn their backs on the enemies just to walk up to you. It's a little frustrating, it's a very painful experience to deal with at times, so what I would recommend is, when you have that defensible location, only move within a very small radius. You don't need to move much. I'd recommend because there's a leash effect of when you travel a certain distance from your teammates, it'll pull the leash and bring them towards you. What I'd recommend is they'll usually stick kind of relatively close together, so stay near them, and you'll make like a triangle or some weird shape, and then you can walk in a circle or back and forth between them, and you'll always be fine. This is made a lot easier once you have the Thunderhammer on Barracuda, because his capacity to defend himself, it skyrockets, but better yet is that if you stand somewhere and he stands somewhere, usually for me is the Apothecary Nahum, he will stand in the middle and then just be perfectly defended. So he'll fire through both of you and you'll be able to take care of everything and kill everything, and usually the 2 kill points you'll have. If you're in a situation where you think you're going to get attacked before that, you can run away. I have run away before when they were attacking us, not far enough that they would lose us and they'd have to like re-engage us from a different area, but just enough that I'd be able to tell my 2 squad mates, you have to come here so that we can kill them. This is a big part of keeping them alive and a big part of them actually fighting. So I'd recommend that simply just staying close to them in a combat situation, you'll make things a whole hell of a lot easier, not only for yourself, but for them. And on top of that, what I'd also recommend is if you are in a situation where maybe you're damaged or anyone is damaged really, you can actually tell your Apothecary to heal them, anyone you want, and they will go and heal that person, whoever they are. They'll drop all other commands for it, which is very useful because even though you're getting swarmed and even though things are bad, they can go heal that person. So this is very useful for you because you can intentionally walk right up to them and say, I need healing, and they can administer it in the middle of the fight and you'll be okay. If you tell them to do it and they are also wounded, make sure that you make them heal themselves first. There is a small cooldown between healings. It's not depicted anywhere to my understanding, but you can usually do just fine by waiting a couple of seconds and saying, okay, now heal that other guy. Because if he dies on the way to heal somebody, that's a bad time. So make sure you're careful about that. Overall, there isn't much more that you'd need to do actually. Just if you have psychic abilities, they pass through teammates, you can actually fire chain lightning through the back of somebody and hit the enemy in front of them. I do it all the time. It works very well. You can throw Inferno through them, you could create a void right in front of them or right on them. I usually do that on Barracuda since he'll tend to pack up a large amount of enemies, and if I'm worried that he's going to start sustaining large amounts of damage, I'll place it on him and let everything just start getting killed, because wherever he's standing is likely to be a major spawn point, and then I can just turn around and then cover the other spawn point and it's okay. So these are very basic, but I feel rather fundamental in how they function to get your teammates to do the things that you want. I haven't personally found a way that, I don't know if this happens to other people, but I haven't found a way to make them stop going in front of me. I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't know why they do that, but they keep doing it, and they're going to keep doing it, so I need to find a way to work around it, but I haven't found a way to do that. It'd be nice if there was a command to say, stand behind me, but that doesn't exist. If you find a way to do that, by the way, please let me know. Even if I've done this game and it's been a year, just tell me. I'd like to know what it was that I couldn't figure out. But this is just the end of the video at this point. I think that I've covered everything. I had my basic disclaimer. I'm sorry if I said anything that was inaccurate or wrong, Warhammer related. You can make fun of me for the difficulty that I'm playing on. That's fine, I suppose. Whatever. I do stand by the guide that I'm giving. Again, it's not the end-all be-all. It's not going to trivialize the entire game, but what it will do in its effect is make things a lot easier for you. As you can see in that video again, when I was playing the gameplay in the beginning, I am not exactly in the best position. I'm just standing there with my back to Barrakill, trying to defend him. There's got to be a better place in there that you can be to get this done, but I wasn't there and I managed just fine. So I think that's a good testament to what I'm trying to say. And maybe it's the way I play, but you can see the way I play in the video. It's nothing special. I just spam all of your psychic abilities and hoard the ones that have long cooldowns until it's appropriate to use it, and that's all you got to do. But other than that, I hope that this has been useful in any way. If you have any criticisms or anything like that, alterations to any of the information I have, then by all means let me know. Warhammer stuff, all welcome. I can't contribute, but I'd like to see it. Hopefully you have a good time with the game. If not, then I assume you got it on Steam. Get that refund while you still can.